counting until the Packers open their training camp, and all eyes across the NFL, of course, remain on Aaron Rodgers. Friday, during a session in which he was going over Packers team finances, team president Mark Murphy was asked about the Rodgers situation, and he said, and I quote, "I appreciate the question. This is really limited to questions regarding financial statements. I would just say there's nothing new to update on the issue that you raised." The issue that you raised, he said, which always strikes me as funny that he sort of talked around saying Aaron Rodgers' name. But let's leave that aside. Dan Graziano, you told us yesterday in a conversation that we had off the air, this is a critical week for this situation. Why?
Well, because if there's still anything for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers to talk about, this is the week to talk about it. You mentioned they're reporting to training camp next week. Obviously, if you're the Packers, you want to know who your quarterback is going to be. Their preference is that it would be Aaron Rodgers. So what has to happen in order to get him to come in? This is not about money, as I understand it. The Packers have made several efforts this offseason to try and offer him a new contract. He hasn't been interested in that. My understanding, and again, look, everything on this situation is informed speculation. So it's informed speculation from the people I'm talking to, and then, I present it to you guys. My understanding is an adjustment has to be made to the contract that allows Aaron Rodgers some degree of control over what the ending of his career is going to be. Now, does that mean they adjust his contract so that he can get out of it in 1 year, a la Tom Brady, his final year in New England? If that can be arranged and it can be done to everyone's satisfaction, that's the kind of thing that might potentially be able to get to a resolution where Aaron Rodgers comes back and actually does play for the Packers this year. Of course, this assumes he hasn't already decided to sit out the whole thing.
Right, and so, but let's live in that world for a moment, because it is an interesting one, and we've heard that brought up a number of times. Dominique, when that comes up, you told me all of a sudden this becomes infinitely more interesting to you. Why is that?
It does, because it's something we've never seen before. It's a guy going on his farewell tour, knowing that he's had a Hall of Fame worthy career somewhere, but he's not going on a farewell tour to go off home and be retired. He's going to go somewhere else and win a championship elsewhere. Like, I can't imagine how the fans are going to experience that, but I imagine that Aaron Rodgers, if he's able to kind of fix his contract so he's a free agent and has control after this year, he would want nothing more to win a Super Bowl with this team and then leave. And then leave them there to live with the decision that they made to move on from him and see what they can do with Jordan Love afterwards while he's somewhere else, maybe somewhere like Denver, winning another championship. That would be the ideal scenario for Aaron Rodgers, and I can't say that I wouldn't love watching it myself.
There are so many pieces of this that are interesting, and we can talk about what might be a logical place for him to go to a year from now. But, Nico, I believe you were on with us last week, and Marcus Spears in particular was all not upset, but was quite concerned about the other players on that team. I mean, if you've got your quarterback, no matter how good he is, no matter how much you may like him, if he has just negotiated a situation where he's basically saying, I'm one and done, I'm out of here, no matter what else happens, can they win that way? If they make the deal that Dan Graziano was talking about, can they win a championship this year that way?
Of course they can. And look, there's so many guys playing on one-year contracts anyway. The NFL is full of guys just saying, guess what, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to play my contract out. I have 1 year left. And the key word here is control. Controlling your own destiny in a league, honestly, where you're drafted and usually released beyond your control. People are taking you where they want you to be, and you don't have control of your own destiny. So I have no issues with a player being in an uncomfortable position, making sure that he can control where he goes, especially when a team is going to go draft somebody or trade you or trade for somebody in your position and you have no control at all. So for me, even if I was in that locker room, I would understand, look, 2021, just get him through the door and it could be our year. Because when you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, you have a chance.
When do they need him in the door, Dominique? Training camp starts in 8 days. Preseason a few weeks after that. The regular season is still almost 2 months away. When do they need him in that door in order to still have that same chance?
Well, they need him in that door before game one, but I think it's best to have him in there at the start of training camp to get as much time as possible. But to the point you were making about him not, or the team understanding that he may not be there at the end of the year, like that's urgency. Like I think that helps the team more than it hurts. It's one thing that you can't create on the team. You can't fabricate, no matter how much you talk about it, you cannot fabricate urgency. And the determination and the effort that comes with that type of urgency, knowing that you only got one more season to win a championship, that might make this team even better.
If they make him or put him in a position where he can become a free agent after this season, we have an idea for a place he might wind up, that the Packers might wind up regretting that decision in a very significant way. We will get to that and a whole lot more, much more football conversation as we go. But staying in the state of Wisconsin, that is where Game 6 of the NBA Finals will be played tomorrow night, with Giannis and the Bucks looking to close out the Suns after Phoenix took the first two games of the series. Milwaukee now back in it, taking Game 3, led by Giannis with 41 points. And then in Game 4, Giannis doing it with the defense. The legendary block on DeAndre Ayton, the play where he stopped the alley and the oop. That tied things up. And then the first road victory of the series on Saturday night. Jrue Holiday, the steal. There's the alley. There's Giannis throwing down the oop. And it is the Milwaukee Bucks who took the 3-2 lead back home to Milwaukee. You should know the teams down 3-2 in the NBA Finals go on to win the series only 19% of the time. That means of the 47 teams to enter a Game 6 down 3-2, only 9 of them have become champions. The most recent, the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Warriors in 2016. If only we had someone on our show who was on that team. Oh, yes. Richard Jefferson was on that team, and he is in Milwaukee today. And here's where I want to begin, RJ. A week ago, as we just pointed out, the Bucks were on the brink. On the other side, they were down 2-0. The Suns seemed really comfortable. How did we get in a week's time from there to here?
Look, everybody has been wondering that question, because ultimately what the Bucks have done is they have just continued being so gritty. Look, they were down 2-0 to the Nets. They were down 1-0 to Milwaukee, down 2-0 here to Phoenix. So this has really been their path. And even if you look at the last few years, they have always played somewhat of a difficult brand of basketball. But I think with the addition of Jrue Holiday and the way Chris Middleton is playing, they have just continued getting better as this series has gone on. And I'll remind people, in Game 1, that was the first game that Giannis had played in a week. And so it wasn't even the best version of him. So if you look at that, then you're like, hey, maybe this series would have been a little bit different if Giannis would have came into it healthy.
And that's exactly right. I mean, we forget, because everything seems so long ago, that we didn't even know if Giannis would play in this series before it began. So speaking of him, he has made huge plays on the defensive end. He's had signature plays on the offensive end in several enormous games. If he wins this thing tomorrow night, what will this playoff run have meant for Giannis's legacy?
It's going to mean so much for him, because he did it the most difficult way, to do it where you got drafted, to do it in a small market, to build to build from within. When you look at bringing in Chris Middleton and then going and getting the right pieces, going and giving the farm to get Jrue Holiday. So it's not even just Giannis. You want to give a compliment to the Bucks organization, to the fan base, but really the fact that Giannis did it the hardest way possible, that not a lot of guys do, that it's a very special opportunity and a special championship if they're able to finish it off.
And how about this performance in particular through 5 games so far? You've played with and against some of the greatest players in NBA history in the finals: Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. How would you